When a game developer reworks one of its character classes, it's always fun to see what the changes are and how they affect gameplay. For today's video, we're going to look at the Dawnblade's Attunement of Sky and compare its strengths, weaknesses, and playstyle to the other Dawnblade branches. Let's get started. And here we go. We're going to start off today by talking about the Dawnblade's Attunement of the Sky. This subclass branch received some pretty significant reworks, and they are incredible. But there were some nerfs that went on, but ultimately I think all the changes that were made to the Attunement of the Sky were for the better. What we are wearing today is a full set from the previous season, so I'm not going to be using any charged with light mechanics, although those mechanics are incredibly satisfying with this subclass branch. But what we are using are the exotic gloves, the sun bracers. And we have 2 enhanced momentum transfer mods equipped on them. The effect on this mod, causing damage with a grenade, greatly reduces your melee cooldown. That's going to come into play with some of the abilities that we're going to talk about in a little bit. Now, for anyone that doesn't know, the Attunement of the Sky is all about fighting while you are airborne, but in Destiny 2, when you are in the air, whether that is jumping or gliding, your weapons have a significantly reduced accuracy. So even if you're aiming down sights and you have your reticle directly on a target's head, with a weapon like the Patron of Lost Causes, a lightweight scout rifle, there's a chance that your attack is going to miss if you're in the air. But with the Attunement of the Sky, you can kind of get around this by using weapons that don't rely on accuracy in the same way. So the Martyr's Retribution is a single-shot grenade launcher, and while we're jumping in the air, we can shoot this thing off and not have to worry about being perfectly accurate, but we still have to worry about placing our shots well. So this is going to work really well for the Attunement of the Sky. Now let's go in and look at the different abilities that we have access to and the ones that are going to inform our playstyle. First up, Winged Sun allows us to fire weapons, send out our Celestial Fire melee ability, and throw grenades while we're gliding. Also, Airborne Final Blows extend the duration of Heat Rises and grants melee energy. The Heat Rises ability allows us to consume or eat our grenade to extend our glide time and improve our in-air accuracy. As far as I've noticed, when you have Heat Rises active, your in-air accuracy is perfect, which is awesome. The melee attack that got reworked with the Attunement of the Sky is Celestial Fire. It sends out 3 explosive ranged solar blasts, and they have mild tracking on them. Icarus Dash also received some minor changes. You can dash while you're in the air, and you can activate this ability twice in succession before it goes on a 6-second cooldown. And one last thing to note, the nerf that came into play with this subclass branch was made to Winged Sun. This used to reduce the cooldown of your grenade and your melee when you get a kill while airborne. Now it's just for your melee. So what we're going to do now is head into a lost sector and talk more about the different mechanics that are coming into play, the strengths, weaknesses, pros, and cons, etc. The lost sector that we're doing is a very tight enclosed space, so we're not going to be able to fly around super well, but we can still make use of the Winged Sun ability. As long as we're off the ground when we get kills, we're going to trigger the effect, so we can still make it work. So what I want to do to start things off is find an area where there's a nice juicy pack of enemies, chow down on my grenade. We get a kill there, and now I can start sending out these solar grenades because of the sun bracers. And getting all those kills has extended the duration of Heat Rises to almost 30 seconds. And I can just keep going and flowing with this and keep myself in the air almost indefinitely. So the beauty of having a target-rich environment is you can really make use of the floating potential and the unlimited never touch the ground nature of the subclass. But the struggles are going to come into play when you're playing with other players, because they're not going to let you have all the kills. So sometimes you are going to lose the effect of Heat Rises in the same ways you would lose the effect of something like Rampage. So it's not always possible to endlessly chain kills together. But if you're using an exotic like the Sun Bracers and you have momentum transfer on your armor, throwing out your grenade, it's going to reduce the cooldown of your melee, even if you're not on the ground. And then once you have your melee ability back, you secure that kill, then you can throw more grenades, and the cycle continues to repeat itself. There is currently a bug that happens with the Sunbracers where if you consume your grenade while the Sunbracers ready effect is up, then the Sunbracers will stop proccing. So that's just something you have to pay attention to, and it's a bit unfortunate that that bug exists, but it is what it is. So what we're going to do now is continue to flow with the subclass, try and make use of the in-air accuracy a little bit with the scout rifle. There we go. We've got only a few seconds left on heat rises, so I want to find a nice clumping of enemies, but there are none. Oh, the last guy was hiding. That's unfortunate. But again, because of my melee ability, I do have a grenade available to me again. So we can stagger that guy a little bit and then roast him in the solar grenade. Oh, another thing that's really important to mention, when you're playing as the Attunement of the Sky, it's important to bring at least one weapon that isn't affected by the in-air accuracy penalties. So the Martyr's Retribution, it's a single shot grenade launcher. So even if I'm hovering around without heat rises, as long as I'm placing my shots in the general area of my targets, they're going to hit and they're going to do what they're supposed to do. Now, obviously, I can't hit this servitor because he's floating, but you get the idea. Having the ability, even if I don't have heat rises, to still get kills and trigger Winged Sun reliably is a huge benefit to you. So we cleared that out pretty quickly, a little bit faster than I was expecting. So we're going to go into another lost sector and just continue running through things and talking about the pros, cons, strengths, and weaknesses. Before we go into the next lost sector, the Sunbracers are without a doubt the strongest exotic that you can wear with the Attunement of the Sky, but it doesn't feel like the only exotic that you can use. In higher difficulty content, when you're outside of the patrol space, so in the Sundial, in Nightfalls, Karnstein armlets are fantastic. Melee kills restore health for a short duration. It gives you a constant regen effect that does not get interrupted by damage. Being able to trigger that from range is fantastic. But also, the subclass specific exotic, the Wings of Sacred Dawn, also feel really good with this subclass. You don't have the same explosiveness that you have with the Sunbracers. You don't have that ridiculous area damage potential, but you have the ability to maintain your in-air accuracy without having to bring a weapon like Martyr's Retribution for those moments when you don't have heat rises available. But before we switch, let's see. Okay. I don't want to wait for the public event to show up, so I'm just gonna do this little combo without actually hitting an enemy, but you'll be able to appreciate it. So when I get a kill with my melee ability, Sunbracers are ready. I can shoot, throw a grenade, shoot, throw a grenade, shoot, throw a grenade, shoot, throw a grenade. That is one of the most satisfying things you can do in Destiny 2, specifically with the Attunement of the Sky. And the enhanced momentum transfer is doing work in the background as well. Every couple of seconds, we're getting some melee cooldown reduction because of those solar grenades ticking down, and it's really, 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 really cool. Now, there is a little bit of nuance that comes with the solar grenades. Multiple solar grenades will not deal damage to a single target, so the ideal way to make use of the Sunbracers is to spread the love over a very wide area. And they also don't do a lot of impact damage, and as I'm sure you've already noticed, they deal their damage over time. I believe the full duration of a solar grenade is 8 seconds, so you're not always going to be able to get the full duration of a solar grenade to tick down on an enemy. Sometimes they're just going to walk out of it before the full amount of damage is taken. And you're going to see that a lot more in higher difficulty content where enemies have a larger health pool. So there's a whole lot of different nuances that you're going to have to pay attention to when you're playing as the Attunement of the Sky. But overall, once you figure out what the different nuances are and become more accustomed to the never touch the ground play style, then it's going to be incredibly powerful, and there aren't going to be many enemies that can deal with you, whether it be enemies in the PvE space and even in PvP in the Crucible. It's a very satisfying playstyle, and I placed those grenades horribly, and my Heat Rises buff wore off. But I think you get the gist of it. This is such a crazy way to engage with the game, but what I want to do is show off an alternative way to engage with the Dawnblade that still feels incredibly powerful. Something nice about the buffs that were made to the Attunement of the Sky is that it doesn't overshadow an existing subclass. The Attunement of Grace still feels amazing. It is still ridiculously strong in whatever environment you take it into. And we're going to switch things up a little bit. We're not going to use the solar grenade anymore. We're going to go over to the fusion grenade, and we're going to put on an empowering rift and change our exotic from the Sunbracers to the Starfire Protocol. This one, the exotic perk Fusion Harness, fusion grenades have an additional charge and recharge from empowered weapon damage. Fusion grenade kills grant rift energy. They completely reset your rift. That description is a little bit misleading. So with the Attunement of Grace, we can deal empowered weapon damage in 3 ways: with our super Well of Radiance, with our melee ability Guiding Flame, and with our empowering rift. And whenever we deal that empowered damage, we are going to slightly reduce the cooldown of our fusion grenade. Then fusion grenade kills are going to reset our rift. So it's a loop that we're going to try to go through. And we're going to do it in the K1 Revelation Lost Sector up in Sorrow's Harbor. I know we've done Sorrow's Harbor on this channel a lot, but the layout of it is so nice. It's basically like a mini strike, and it allows me to talk about a lot of the different mechanics that are going on over an extended period of time. Whenever I switch off the Attunement of the Sky, I always try to Icarus Dash, and then I remember that I can't do that anymore, which is a little bit sad because Icarus Dash and gliding is a lot of fun. But the fun from the Attunement of Grace doesn't come from extravagance and flying around and being an angel of death. It comes from how effective your playstyle can be and how powerful you are numerically. So right here, I don't want to place down an empowering rift, but I can go ahead and melee that guy, and then my shots are still empowered, and you'll see that I'm getting cooldown reduction on my grenade while I am empowered. And you'll notice something that I try to do sometimes with the timing of a fusion grenade: if you throw one out and activate your rift immediately, then your rift will come back as soon as the grenade explodes and kills an enemy. This is probably the worst place I could have put an empowering rift, but thankfully that acolyte peaked me a little bit, so I was able to get at least a couple of hits on him before having to move. But this playstyle, it's very satisfying for very different reasons than the Attunement of the Sky is satisfying. And I've been bringing it into Nightfalls and even the Sundial and having a great amount of fun and a great amount of success with it as well. Something that is really nice about the fusion grenade when it goes to the target that you're intending it to go to is that it does all of its damage up front. So unlike the solar grenade, you don't need to rely on the enemy sitting in it for 8 seconds for it to deal its full damage. So mobile enemies like wizards and hive knights that like to hunter dodge and other enemies that are just wild and crazy and always jumping around, you can get that full burst of damage on them, and that's going to be really nice for you. Even against big chunky enemies like champions, it can be really, really nice to have burst damage instead of damage over time. That's why the Izanagi's Burden is so popular, because you can burst down an enemy before it has a chance to react and go through its little gameplay loop and use all of its abilities. Alright, we're just about done here. The last thing that I want to show off is the damage potential of the fusion grenade and the Starfire Protocol against a boss, a big chunky enemy. So what we're going to do is make use of the Martyr's Retribution, the Empowering Rift, and the Starfire Protocol all at the same time. So I'm going to shoot, throw a grenade, shoot, throw grenade, shoot some more, throw grenade, shoot some more, reload, shoot some more, throw grenade. The big old ogre is trying to hide behind cover, but I can still see him. So we're going to continue getting those fusion grenades on target. That first shot of the Martyr's Retribution was a miss, and that was a bit awkward. I was hoping to hit the feet right below the ogre so the grenade wouldn't bounce, but that's okay. I think you got the gist of it. You can have a lot of fun with Demolitionist and the double fusion grenades in a similar way that you had fun with the Sunbracers. It's not as rambunctious and explosive, but it's still effective, just in a different way. Let's get that guy stuck right on the head. We've got our Empowering Rift. We've got to play cover, unlike with the Attunement of the Sky, where you can just glide around and avoid fire by staying at a distance and constantly moving. This time, it's all about that cover. And I'm missing all my fusion grenades, so I think it's time to stop. But the overall point that I'm trying to make here is that these different play styles with the Dawnblade are a lot of fun to engage with. The Attunement of the Sky, the top branch, and the middle branch, the Attunement of Grace, they feel like polar opposites, but they both feel very, very satisfying for different reasons. The only outlier in all of this is the Attunement of Flame. It has a terrible neutral game, a decent super, and a really gimmicky special ability, Phoenix Dive. Phoenix Dive, you can activate it while mid-air to quickly descend and restore your health. While Daybreak is active, Descent causes explosive damage and returns super energy. So Phoenix Dive, it looks like this. And when you activate it, it triggers health regeneration. So if you activate it while you're taking damage, whether that be damage over time or from an enemy shooting at you, then you are not going to receive the healing. It's very powerful. But in order to make use of Phoenix Dive effectively, you have to play around cover. So I suppose what we should do before we close out is go into a environment where enemies are going to really shoot me up and challenge me, push me to my limits. So we're going to head into a Will of the Thousands Nightfall real quick and just run through some stuff so I can talk about Phoenix Dive and why I simultaneously like it and don't like it, and why I don't play the Attunement of Flame as much as I play the other two. Alright, so I swapped out the Martyr's Retribution for the Ariana's Vow. So I'm going to have some pretty strong long-range capabilities. I'm going to be able to sit back and pew-pew the enemies, and when I do take damage, because I'm behind cover, I can just do that Phoenix Dive real quick, and I'm going to be back in the action. And it does have a pretty short cooldown, so as long as I'm playing from range and I'm being safe about how I engage with enemies, things are going to be really easy for me. But as soon as I get into a tumble with the enemies, as soon as I'm fighting in close quarters, or if I get pushed, then I can't use Phoenix Dive. I can't do that to get my health back. So I love Phoenix Dive, and it's very strong, but it has some very, very obvious weaknesses as well. Moving into this next area, I messed up my grenade throws, so I don't have my rift available to me. But in this section, we're going to see in full effect the struggles of Phoenix Dive because of the proximity of the enemies that we're fighting. If they push up on me, I'm not going to be able to do that to get my health back. But as long as I'm staying at range, I can make use of my abilities. So it really takes that marksman playstyle and pushes it to the extremes. There we go. We got our rift back, and I just need to find a decent place to put it. Some thrall are going to start spawning over here, and those things are going to be what pushes me and makes it difficult for me to use Phoenix Dive safely. But again, as long as I'm working the angles, playing at range, I should be okay. See, right here, we're in trouble. Those thrall are melee enemies, but again, the Phoenix Dive has that animation lock, so even if you are able to get the health regeneration, if you're being pushed by something, there's a good chance that they're still going to hit you after the animation finishes. But we are seeing a little bit of the super Every time I get a kill with it, its cooldown, its duration gets extended. Took some damage there while Phoenix Dive was activating, and I didn't get the heal. So you kind of see there's a lot of struggles with Phoenix Dive. It asks you to play a super passive play style in order to get the most out of it. And then the neutral game of the Attunement of the Flame is not very good. So I think this one still needs a little bit of work, if I'm honest. If Phoenix Dive gave you the heal even while you're taking damage, then I think it would be a lot better, and you'd find at least a little bit more value in it. But I'm not super happy with the Attunement of the Flame. Not as happy as I feel like I should be. The super is still decently fantastic, but it's not worth it. It's not worth it. So I probably should have started with this one because we're ending on a bit of a disappointing note, but everything that I've said stands. The top branch, Attunement of the Sky, is fantastic. The middle branch is still fantastic, Attunement of Grace. Attunement of the Flame, it's not that great. And there we go. That's going to do it for the video for today. There is a lot more stuff to talk about for the Season of Dawn. There are new Charged with Light mods to unlock for this week, and I'm going to work on unlocking those and see what kind of cool builds I can come up with for them. For the Attunement of the Sky, Dawnblade, Titan, Hunter, I'm going to have a lot of fun playing around with the new system. So with all of that said, if you enjoyed this video and you'd like to support the channel more than you already do just by watching, liking, subscribing, and commenting, you can head over to patreon.com/iBluairJgR to become a patron. As always, the name of the game is Destiny 2. The name of the channel is iBluairJgR. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.